All right, everyone. Welcome to another New Jersey Constitutional Republican virtual conversation. It's my great pleasure tonight to have Republican Sheriff candidate for Cumberland County, Mr. Mike Donato. How you doing, Mike?
Good, JR. How you doing? Thank you very much for having me on tonight.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Mike, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then we'll talk about your sheriff's office and the duties required.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, JR, obviously, I just retired back in February 29th after 25 plus years of law enforcement in this county. Had a great career. I started off.
Thank you for that, Mike. Thank you for your
Absolutely.
service.
Hey, listen, I enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, every day you guys put your lives on the line, and I speak for a lot of people that are very appreciative for that service and day in and day out, plus having a family and living your lives. You guys, you're putting your natural rights on the line of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness in order to preserve and protect. And people need to realize that and support those who've been in law, who are in law enforcement and who have been like you. So go right ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, absolutely. No, listen, I appreciate it. So, I started my career here at the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department back in 1994. Back then, the Sheriff's Department, the sheriff actually overseen the jail still. So I did about a year at the county jail, and I left the county jail just prior to the transfer of power to the warden, and went to the courthouse. It was by title, they were separated, corrections officer and sheriff's officer back then, and as they are now still. I worked at the courthouse for several years when they had opened up the new courthouse there in Bridgeton. And then I was fortunate enough to get an assignment with the County Narcotics Task Force as a sheriff's officer for just under a year. March of '98. While I was with the Sheriff's Department and assigned to the Narcotics Task Force, I was hired by the City of Bridgeton Police Department. Spent about 7.5 years at the police department in Bridgeton. I worked a couple years on patrol. I was very fortunate. I made detective, worked as a criminal investigations bureau there in Bridgeton, and then again assigned back out to the County Drug Task Force for a couple of years prior to being hired by the prosecutor's office. In and around November of 2005, I received the job, or got asked to be a detective at the prosecutor's office. I took the job and I went there. I left Bridgeton, and I worked while at the prosecutor's office. I worked narcotics. I worked in the trial unit, and I worked the major crimes unit for several years. And had I had a great career there. I throughout my career, I've worked with a tremendous amount of people from the local, state, and federal level. And very fortunate, in November of 2010, I was promoted to the rank of sergeant, and I supervised the major crimes unit for several years for the prosecutor's office, and then also supervised the narcotics drug task force for the county for about a year and a half. In and around August of 2016, I was promoted to the rank of lieutenant, where I overseen a sergeant, 8 detectives, and support staff at the prosecutor's office, and overseen the legal bureau there for about 3.5 years prior to retiring in February. So, I mean, looking back on some of the stuff that I've did throughout my career working in narcotics and major crimes, I just, I loved every minute of it, and can't believe the time has flown by so fast, and it's over with at this point. That's a little bit about my career, and if you don't mind, JR, I'd like to talk about some of my stuff I do outside of that work. Sure. I'm a lifelong resident of Cumberland County. I live in Cedarville, Orange Township. Pretty much lived down here my whole life with my family. Second assistant chief. I also volunteer for the Bridgeton Baseball Invitational Tournament they have up there in Alden Field every year. I've been doing that for 5 or 6 years. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with that, being on this end of the county.
Mike, hold on for a second. You got to give us a little bit, go for a little bit further back. We lost your audio, but I'm very familiar with the Bridgeton tournament way back when you were a young man, maybe before you were born. I used to pitch for Joyce's Stars. I used to
Okay,
for Mr.
absolutely.
I used to pitch for Edgar Joyce a little bit and played with Gary Fisher. Gary Fisher could still play.
Yeah, he's still playing.
I think he's still playing.
Yeah,
we had a guy named Dave Price on our team, who was a great ball player, played Albuquerque AAA for the Dodgers. So that's an American, a little bit of Americana there, that Bridgeton Invitational Tournament that's been around a long time. And there have been a lot of successful major league pitchers and players who actually played in the tournament years ago. So very familiar with that. But tell us a little bit about right before that. We missed that with the audio. You lost audio.
Oh, I apologize. So I've been at the fire department in Cedarville for about 30 years. In my 30th year now. 10 plus years of that, I've been an officer and currently the second assistant chief there at the fire department. And obviously, living in Cumberland County, I live in Cedarville. My family, my wife, and 4 children, and most of my parents are still down here, along with my brothers and sisters. Talk about the baseball tournament. I remember going up there as a kid. My dad loved that. He would go there all the time and watch those games. And I remember going up there sporadically with him, watching baseball. And my kids are very active in sports, and they love watching the games. My daughter plays softball, and all the kids are different sports they're in. So we're a big sports family. We would go up there all the time and watch the games, the kids, and hang out there. And I was running it back then. He was like, you're up here every night. You should help us out. So I joined up. I helped him out for a couple of years, and then Gary took over. I've been working hand in hand with Gary for the past several years, and he's doing a wonderful job with it. And I enjoy it. I look forward to doing it every year. One other thing, one other thing, JR, is right now I'm currently the sitting president of the Cumberland County Fire and EMS Chiefs Association. That organization is made up of all the fire departments throughout the county. And we get together every other month. We talk about training. We talk about issues in the fire service. It's a great organization. It gets all the chiefs together every other month. We can talk about some issues and topics and things that are going on, and make the service better for everybody. So that's me. That's my background. Obviously I'm a little bit busy doing a lot of stuff.
Yes, you are. And your experience, Mike, uniquely qualifies you for this position. I mean, not only with the law enforcement, but also the fireman work and a lot of community involvement. And you're well known, and a lot of people know and think a lot of you. So your experience is a tremendous plus. Now, tell us about your duties you'd be responsible for as sheriff of Cumberland County. Tell us what the essential duties are. What is it you're required to do?
One of the main things, and where a majority of the men and women there at the sheriff's department are assigned to is the courthouse. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there. They're responsible for the day-to-day operations, the people that are coming into the courthouse every day, the judges, the staff that's working there. I mean, it's a big responsibility, and that's where a majority of the manpower is up there in that courthouse. Then they're also responsible for civil duties with the subpoenas and the sheriff's sales of properties and things that goes on. And, and more importantly, they're responsible for, the warrants and stuff that come out of the Superior Courthouse, the child support warrants, the warrants for failure to appears on the people who aren't showing up for court when they're supposed to. So there's a lot of duties. They're spread out pretty good. There's a lot of responsibility, obviously, that comes with the position. And, I'm ready for the job. I feel that I'd be comfortable with doing it, and surrounded by good men and women that, want to help this county out every day.
Certainly, as you know, Mike, the New Jersey Constitutional Republicans are very interested in history. And we want to talk about what Thomas Jefferson wrote about in his pamphlet called The Value of Constitutions. He wrote the quote, "There is no honorable law enforcement authority in Anglo-American law so ancient as that of the county sheriff, whose role as a peace officer goes back at least to the time of Alfred the Great." So now we're talking about 8th, 9th century in English history. And of course, the office of president, or the office of sheriff rather, precipitates the office of president, House of Representatives, Congress, and judicial appointees. So it's changed in a lot of ways over the years. And I told you earlier, I think the office of sheriff has unfortunately been another casualty to the ideas of progressivism, which have taken a lot of the responsibilities and a lot of the authority that the sheriff had in assuring the people's safety and giving it to the local law enforcement agencies, the state law agencies, and administrations. So there's been a real change with your responsibilities, but what you're doing is so vitally important, especially when it comes to the court and when it comes to getting taking care of and train. You're going to be transporting potential prisoners and those who've jailed as well, correct?
Well, right now, the way it's set up, the warden is overseeing a lot of the jail responsibilities. Now, don't get me wrong, when right. Inmates are transferred from the jail to the courthouse, and then they're in the holding areas waiting for court or whatever their business may be that for that day, that is a responsibility that the officers will be tasked with. But at this point, in this stage of the game, and as we're speaking today, the warden's responsible for the inmates and the county jail and Department of Corrections.
Right. And unfortunately, right now, we don't have a county jail. We're sending our prisoners to other facilities and paying for that. And that's a whole situation that our Republicans who are going to get elected on the free board are going to fix with Darwin Cooper and Victoria Gretsch Lotz and Antonio Romero.
Yes.
So they're going to your compatriots there running. But Mike, tell us why you're going to be why you're a better choice for sheriff than your opponent.
Well, JR, I started out working at the sheriff's department. I'm familiar with the operation. I worked hand in hand with those men and women a lot, working as a county, as a prosecutor's office detective. And I never forgot where I came from. Looking back and talking to a lot of the guys that I worked with over the years and a little bit of a history of the sheriff, there's never been a sheriff who's actually wore that uniform, worked that metal detector, worked the courtrooms, been on assignments and things of that nature, and I want to be that guy. I know what it's like to work those assignments. So when there's, and I know what happens when you're there working those assignments. When you look back at the history, majority of the time, they've been law enforcement officers from other agencies, the Vineland Police Department, state police, and as such. But I'm very proud to say that I wore that uniform when I started my career. Had a great 4 years there. Worked hand in hand with a lot of great people. That some are still, a couple are still there. Not many of them. A lot of them moved on, retired, or just moved on to other jobs. But that to me, that's very important, and I think that's a good message that the rank and file and the officers know where I'm coming from, because I've been there and I've done that. As you can see when we talked earlier about my my history, I've been a very proactive police officer throughout my career, working narcotics and major crimes and so forth, and patrol. I want to bring that back to the sheriff's department. They're a law enforcement agency. I want to make sure that the men and women that are working there every day have all the necessary resources they need, the training, and so forth, and be proactive with their responsibilities. After they get their work done and the assignments, I want them out there being proactive in the communities. There's a time and a place for everything. I think the sheriff's is a unique spot where we don't really have to answer 911 calls. So it allows us to give a little bit more freedom to do things. Being proactive in the laws and enforcing the laws is going to be one of them. And then there's going to be times where, we're going to be out there in the community. We're going to be working with the mayors of the small towns and the townships and the city police departments and the state police, and helping out with whatever the community needs. I mean, disaster times, big storms come through, whatever that is. I'm going to be there because, as a law enforcement officer in this county for 20 some years and being on the fire service, I have a connection with a lot of people. And I want to make sure that I utilize and help them out in whatever way we possibly can. And I'm going to ensure the county residents that's what's going to happen.
Right now, I can attest to the difference between you and your opponent. it's been almost 2 years since I wrote Sheriff Faustino a letter asking him what his position was, what his thoughts were on the sanctuary city-state status passed down by Attorney General Gruel and supported by Governor Phil Murphy. And all I've gotten is crickets. I never received any kind of reply whatsoever, not necessarily that his office is able to do too much in enforcing, but still the federal law 13, 24, and 25, the rules of naturalization show and clearly delineate a legal person from an illegal person. And these laws, Michael, as you're well aware, have been created to protect American citizens from those who are invading or those who are coming into our communities illegally. Many people come in legally and do what they're supposed to do, and too many don't. So I asked him what his position and what he thought about the agenda of the Attorney General and the governor, and of course there was no reply. In contrast, when you initially ran, you sent me a letter, you gave me phone calls, you called several times, and this is attributable to your personality, to how warm you are, to how sincere you are, to how genuine you are as a man. And I know many other people can attest to this who've known you a lot longer than I have. I know our good friend Eddie Stockbridge would vouch for what I'm saying. But I know, Mike, that you're well liked and you're a great leader. I mean, to being a sergeant and to being a lieutenant, you've got guys under you, and you're really, really you hold a special. This is a special opportunity for the citizens of Cumberland County to really get a sheriff who's going to do an outstanding job. He's going to answer emails when he gets them, and he's going to be accessible, and he's going to go out in the community, and he's going to gain the trust and the confidence of the people whom he serves. And that will even include the criminals or those who are accused of crimes, also gaining their confidence to make sure that their best interests are involved as well. So that's why I think you're an outstanding candidate for sheriff.
No, I appreciate that, JR. I mean, listen, obviously the buck would stop with me, and I'm sure I'm going to come across a lot of tough questions and things. And I think by applying the law and good common sense, I think I'll get through it just fine. And getting back to people, and when you're in that position, that's what you need to do. I mean, there's people out there, they may not be on your side of the fence, but the residents of Cumberland County, and they deserve an answer to things. And as I said, sometimes people may not like the answer they get, but I think that I would be able to give them an answer, applying the law and good common sense and my experiences in the past, and do the right thing.
That's right. I think that the vast majority of people, of course, Mike, are law-abiding citizens, and they appreciate law and order. They appreciate our law enforcement. They appreciate our Vineland, Bridgeton, and Millville police organization, the cops who work for them. They appreciate our state troopers. They appreciate our law enforcement. And it's only a minority of people that would look unfavorably to law enforcement, because law enforcement is one of the important initial Republican Party principles, which you personify, as well as our freeholder candidates. And people need to gain confidence again in the restoration of law and order, making sure our areas are safe, and supporting our sheriff and your deputies, and supporting our local law enforcement. And that's a Republican principle. And people want to they want to live in safe communities from which they can raise their families and go to work. It's very simple.
No, and you're right. It is, and that there is a very, very, very small minority of people who, are against that. And as I agree with you, the vast majority of the people, 99.9% of them, are for law and order. They want to go to work. They want to get up every day. They want to just do their job. They want to come home. They want to support their family. And they want to feel safe in their communities that they're living, wherever that community may be. It doesn't matter. So by me being proactive and passing that message down to the officers that we're going to be proactive, they're going to be community engagements in not only the enforcement of, motor vehicle laws and criminal law, but you stop by, you see the kids out there playing, that's a community contact. And just by that person being there, that car going through their neighborhood real slow and just looking around and making sure everybody's good, that gives them that sense of feeling safe. And I want to bring that back, and I'm going to instill that, or I'm going to mandate that the officers do that. I mean, that's what we're about.
That's right. And of course, we like to look at the New Jersey Constitutional Republics. We like to look at the big picture, and we go back to the Declaration of Independence. And probably one of the most important words in the Declaration of Independence is that governments are derived to secure these rights. So there's that word secure, which is the word security, which is what the sheriff is involved in, and your deputies, and our law enforcement people, and our judges and our courts as well, and our attorneys as well. So the idea of security is very, very, very important, and really the essential responsibility of government. The founders thought that the protection of the person and then their property were the two chief responsibilities of government. That is the purpose of government. And of course, we've gotten way too far out of whack with that thinking, but that's what we need to get back to. And that's why it's so important to vote for sheriff, to vote for the right guy like yourself who's equipped and has the experience to do it. And that's why you're going to be an outstanding sheriff candidate. And people need to fill their ballots out. The Democrats have been sending them in droves. They love the fact that we're mailing our ballots in as opposed to going to the polls like we Republicans like to do. But that can't discourage us from writing out, putting in our vote, and getting it in a secure place to get it in to be accounted for. So I encourage Republicans to vote.
And listen, JR, you hit the nail right on the head. We're still making contacts. We're banging on doors, myself and the freeholder candidates. We're out there. We've made ourselves accessible to everybody by going to events, posting stuff on social media, making phone calls, sending text messages. I mean, you name it, we're doing it, day in and day out. Because we feel comfortable that we can make a change, in this upcoming election. But I'll be honest with you, there's people out there that are still thinking they're going to the polls to vote. And no matter what we put out there, and as much as the message we try and send, people got to get those ballots filled out. They got to get them in as soon as possible. I mean, I've just talking to some people today, and they're like, well, we can't wait. We're going to drop ours off at the polling station. I'm like, no, you don't want to do that. You want to get that in there now. We're suggesting to use the secure drop boxes. I've been telling people, you should drop it off first thing in the morning if you possibly can, because they're collecting them daily, or take it right to Board of Elections yourself and drop it off, and get those ballots in. I mean, that's the message we're getting out now. Get those ballots in. And obviously, we want you to vote column B.
Well, you have to vote Republican. I mean, we need to vote Republican. We've seen the mess that the majority Democrats holding the free board have done with the irresponsibility of the board and a lot of waste. And I have to say that I'm very proud to say that today I received this beautiful mailer here in my post box. And here is a wonderful mailer. It's got Tony on there, Antonio Romero, freeholder, Darwin Cooper Jr., who was just here a couple of nights ago, Victoria Gretch Lodge, who we had a couple of weeks ago on an NJCR BC. And of course, there's that handsome fella right there on the corner. There he is. There's Mike Donato. So this is a great brochure. Read it. There's a lot of good points on here identifying why this group of candidates are the right candidates for Cumberland County. And like Mike has said, you need to get these ballots filled out. You need to get them in the safe drop boxes. If you have to call anyone, Celeste Riley is available, the clerk of the county. She can direct you. She has information up to where to get your ballots in.
Yes.
But, Mike, give us one more final word before we sign off, and tell us why you think you can win this thing, and why you're going to be so good for the residents of Cumberland County.
JR, as we talked about early on, and just to sum everything up, the things I've done throughout my career working in this county in law enforcement, and the volunteer stuff that I've done, I just didn't start doing this just when I retired. I've been working on this for many, many years in anticipation that one day maybe this could happen. And, it's here. I see my name on the ballot, and, I was like, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe this is happening. But, just everything that I've done throughout my life and my family values and things of that nature, I think I'm a great candidate for this position. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity that I've been given to do this. And, I'm working hard and the freeholder candidates, and we're working hard every day. And I got to tell you, the support that we have been given by the committee and the chairman and Senator Testa and, just everybody, it's unbelievable how well the team works together for one common goal. And that's to get us all four elected, in the next 2 weeks. And, I feel good about it. I'm excited about it. And we're not going to stop until that day. And then right after that day, hopefully within a few days or less than a week, I'm hoping at least we have an answer. And I think the residents of Cumberland County have seen what's been going on. They're educating themselves on a lot of the issues that are there. And I truly believe they want change, and hopefully it's coming.
That's right. And Mike, you make a good point. You've really had a lot of support. All the candidates, Senator Testa, Chairman Testa, as we refer to him here as our Cumberland County Chairman, as well as our state senator, has been doing a great job in Trenton. And now he's been very active with the campaign. These brochures, these mailers, they cost a lot of money. And it costs money to get them developed and to get them designed properly. Plus, everyone had some nice videos, some nice, well-produced videos that were put out. Of course, you've got to give Chairman Testa a lot of credit for the support he's given you, and he's been involved with a lot of replying and a lot of posting. So he's really been engaged, and that's great to see. And that's all part of this Republican resurgence, Mike, that
Yes.
really they created with winning LD1 last year, and now it's building. I mean, you talk about diversity. People want to talk about diversity. I mean, just take a look at that ticket right there, and that is a real diverse ticket. But what's more important is that all these individuals believe in the principles, the self-evident principles that the equality of opportunity, that we're all created equal. We're all human beings, and we're all Americans, and we don't need to put modifiers or hyphens in front of being Americans. And this is why this is as good of a freeholder board and a sheriff candidate that I've seen in Cumberland County, and I've been around a few years.
Yeah, look, when you look at that group, the qualifications and the background and the history of what, the four of us have done throughout our life, I mean, we're qualified. I think we're very qualified to handle this. And I think by using our background, our experiences, and good common sense, I think we can make a change. I think the people will see that.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you joining me for the show. Please share this video with others. If others have not voted yet, make sure they do. Make sure they vote Republican. And I can attest, Mike, you're a great guy, a real gentleman, a professional. And you have a great way of communicating with people, and that's essential in your job, and you'll bring that to the responsibilities that you're given as sheriff. I thank you very much for joining me, and we'll say goodnight. Thank you, Michael, again.
Thank you, JR. I appreciate you having me on tonight. You have a great night.
Anytime. We hope to see you soon. Bring home a victory for us. Remember, Mike, what Abraham Lincoln said, liberty for all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.